This is my first year in the role. I've been a previous IBL, but this is my first year sort of recruiting the IBLs, and I can say that the stream that's been the most popular in terms of applications has been the sales and marketing stream, but that also has the most roles. So I think that I was actually running some numbers about half an hour ago about which has the most applicants per role, and it was the New Zealand roles. I guess that's because it's an entire country going for 7 roles, whereas we have sort of mainly New South Wales and Victoria going for our roles. So yeah, it's really hard to say what's the most popular, but I wouldn't I guess what's most popular, it probably doesn't matter as much in terms of your success to getting a role, because you can state your preference for multiple roles. And within sales and marketing, which is the most sort of popular stream so far, there is like 13 roles or something. So I guess the 13 best candidates will get the role. What role were you looking to apply for? Or was there anything you were interested in?
Yes, so I'm doing Bachelor of Commerce at Deakin. I'm majoring in marketing and HR. So then the business supply manufacturing is in HR, but then sales and marketing is more the marketing side. So I'm just a bit torn on which one to apply for at the moment.
Absolutely. I would encourage you to apply for the one that you think sounds the most exciting, the one that you're most passionate about. I wouldn't worry about how many applicants per role, because if you're the best applicant, you're the best applicant. And you can state your preference for both. So if you happen to not get one because there was lots of great applicants, then I'll definitely consider you for the other one. I might ask Bridget first, because she's the only one of our IBLs who has completed a full 12 months. But then I will ask the others to maybe, tell us a little bit about what your first 7 months has been like. So Bridget, would you mind telling us what your 12 months as an IBL plus your life in your new role is like as well?
Yeah, of course. Busy. I think the first thing I would say is that the IBL year is definitely very much like a proper role. I think Grant alluded to this earlier, in that the business really relies on the IBLs to keep the functioning of the business and the work going, which means that you will be treated as a normal employee, which means you have multiple projects, you've got multiple things going on, you've got meetings and team connects. So I think for me personally, my IBL year, I had kind of one major project that I was working on, which was launching a brand new website. And that involved calls with global teams, that involved cross-functional calls in terms of getting the tech and the digital aspects of it up and running. And then I had my day-to-day functionings where I managed a field team and I organized forecasting from a sampling perspective. So there's day-to-day functionings and things that happen. And then there was the larger projects that I was working on. And that was for most of my IBL year. And then I transitioned into my new role where I work as a assistant brand manager for Panadol. So similar, I think it really, every day is different in terms of what projects you're working on, and I suppose what your key priorities are. But I am equally busy, if not more. I work with a whole lot of agencies working on our strategy in terms of the direction that we want to go, and then also in executing and ensuring that we are meeting our KPIs and objectives and constantly kind of keeping on top of those elements, working with external agencies as well as our internal teams and presenting that back to our leadership team as well, so they're across the progress that we're making. So there's a few different elements. I would say one part of it is strategy, then it's execution, and then it's also feeding that back to the wider business so that everyone knows what we're working on.
So my project and my day-to-day role is sort of all encompassed into one. So I'm a part of the quality team. I'm the quality assurance IBL. So I do a lot of work with my team in helping their day-to-day activities. But my main focus, I am the how would I describe it? Like the person that's solely in charge of running the complaints for pharmaceuticals in Australia. So anything to do with a complaint or some feedback or issues that customers are having with one of our pharmaceutical products in Australia, that comes through to me via an email or a phone call, and it's my job to look after that and make sure that information gets to who it needs to go to. So my projects tend to always be around that. How can I offer improvement for this process? Because the IBL is always the person that does the complaints. So if you end up as the quality assurance IBL, you will pretty much be the manager of complaints for pharmaceuticals in Australia, which is quite a nice title to tell future employers. So all my projects are about how can I improve that process? How can I make it simpler, run smoother, help the customer experience, make sure it's as simple as it is for them as well. So all my projects are about standard operating procedures, which is very nice to have your name attached to be able to edit and create a new or get rid of, or just anything to do with standard operating procedures and guidance documents. Anything you can get your hands on in regards to that official documentation is always very nice to get your name on. So I'm always looking to see where I can edit them to put my name where I can for future IBLs and employers to see. So that's sort of my big project, is these improvements around the process that I'm doing every day.
Amazing. Lauren, what would be your sort of big project, or one of them, and some of your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, so some of my big projects this year have been really exciting. So I'm in the vaccines team. Specifically, I'm working mostly with Bexio, which is a meningococcal B vaccine, but also just across vaccines. So some of my biggest projects have been organising webinars. So these are educational events for healthcare providers, so things like doctors, nurses, pharmacists, where we get external expert speakers, or we have internal GSK medical people presenting to these healthcare practitioners, which it's really awesome to be a part of that, and it's really awesome to see all the feedback that we get from these medical professionals around the content that we're presenting them. Day to day, I do a lot of marketing, so I manage content that might be coming through. We get a lot of from global that we have to localize for a New Zealand level. So we localize it to reflect current New Zealand data, to reflect the current New Zealand market, things like that. So that's sort of day to day, and that again feeds into another big project which I work along, which is the disease awareness campaign, so the meningococcal disease awareness campaign. And pretty soon, next month, I'm about to start seeing some of my materials out on the street in bus shelters and in malls and things like that. So that's going to be really awesome.
How cool is that? That's a great thing for students. Join the IBLs, and you might be able to put your marketing on buses and bus shelters, and so that's incredible.
Really cool to see. Yeah.
Love it. Connor, so we've heard from Renee, who comes from a sciencey background in the medical and clinical stream. Lauren's from the marketing stream. Connor's from manufacturing and supply, as well as Bridget, who's a bit of an all-star, but mainly marketing. Connor, can you tell me about one of your projects and some of your day-to-day activities?
Yeah, so one of the big projects that I've been involved in at the moment is creating some digital trackers, digital dashboards to track our yield and our turnarounds, so we can better track those two things, yield and turnaround, so we can improve our performance on our manufacturing lines. So that was a pretty big task for me, because that was I volunteered for that project actually, and then I ended up making the dashboard from tools that I'd never even used before, so Power Apps and Power BI, which I quite enjoyed. And in my role as a continuous improvement IBL, there isn't really any day-to-day work, because that's what the role is about. It's about continuous improvement. So it's about seeking opportunities and being involved in what we call continuous improvement frameworks to improve various aspects of the manufacturing lines, and like going all around different departments. So there's no standard work. It's a lot of varied work and continuously improving processes everywhere around site.
And that's an exciting part of your job, is that your role every year changes, because what you've done is better than what the person last year did, because they made a whole lot of improvements and you improve, and the next IBL will make improvements on your improvements. So that's an exciting role. And just really quickly, I want to get to as many questions as we can, but last year when I was in the HR response center, so just from a business operations perspective, my main project on my day-to-day would have been running the pre-employment screening for every single employee that comes in from Australia and New Zealand. So I ran that entire process, making sure that people are who they say they are, and all that kind of thing. But then one of the projects that I'm really, really proud of is conducting GSK's first ever gender equity analysis. So while we do report to WGEA every year on our gender pay gap and all that kind of thing, I did a full in-depth analysis over 4 months of GSK. So I could identify what the pay gap would be if somebody has been in the business for 3 years and they're at this grade role and they went on maternity leave within the last 5 years. And I had this amazing spreadsheet, but at the end, it's led to some really amazing change. And while I can say that I can't deliver the actual numbers, I can say that we're one of the best, if not the best, in the pharmaceutical industry, but always striving to be completely equal. So that's sort of what 12 months can look like within each of the streams.
I think just with me being the quality IBL, it's not hard to talk to people in other departments at all. I think because there's so many IBLs, especially at Abbotsford, you sort of get that comfort in everyone else being in the same situation as you. And then you're able to use them as your pawn to get into other departments. So I've definitely seen
100%.
departments that I want to get into and then use that IBL as my pathway to get in there. So I've been like, oh, come with me and introduce me to your manager because I want to ask them questions, or what did they study at university to get in that high position. So I'm able to become comfortable. You're like brothers and sisters with the other IBLs. You get so close, especially in Abbotsford. We have so many virtual meetings together to keep in contact because we so quickly were able to get that really good relationship. So being able to form that, it's pretty much a free pass into every department. Everyone wants to talk to you. Everyone wants to make sure you're getting the most out of your year and getting the most development wise, well-being wise. So I wouldn't think it's something impossible. It's an open plan office. You can go up to someone sitting at their desk and just be like, hi, what are you working on? Can I have a little hour with you while you do what you're doing? And they're more than happy for you to sit there and explain to you what they're doing. Everyone's very approachable.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Absolutely. I think we might not get to everyone else with the I'll ask the others maybe like 1 or 2 sentences. What would you say is a transferable skill that you learned the most, just so that we can answer as many questions as possible? Lauren?
A transferable skill that's really valuable for me at the moment is probably sort of project management and multitasking. I'm working across so many different projects at the moment, some things that aren't even related to my role, which I guess also ties in with your other questions. There is opportunities to work with other teams. I'm in a commercial team, but I'm currently working on the code of practice rollout, which is with our medical team. So yeah. My phone here doesn't want to stay up, but yeah, just multitasking and yeah.
Perfect. Connor, what would be your transferable skill that's most valuable?
My most valuable transferable skills probably would be a little bit of data analysis and presentation skills, because that's a lot of the projects that I did in my first 6 months were around a lot of data. Yeah.
Cool. And Bridget?
I think everyone's mentioned this, but I think the soft skills, so communication is really important, learning how to manage upwards, so making sure that you are kind of showing what you want to show to the leadership team and the people above you. And I think just prioritization of work as well has been something that I've kind of consistently developed across the last 18 months.